The resistance band snapped against the padded table, and Sienna Reed caught it an inch before it struck the floor. "That counts as a warning," Valerie Morgan said. "The next one counts as you ignoring me." Sienna, our 22-year-old star point guard, lowered the band without arguing. 6 days earlier, she had rolled her right ankle beneath another player during a preseason game. The first scan showed a grade 2 sprain. The second showed enough stability to avoid surgery, but not enough to guarantee she would be ready when the playoffs began in 8 weeks. I stood behind the yellow boundary line painted across the treatment room, holding a paper cup of black coffee and saying nothing. Team owners who wandered into medical sessions usually made the room worse. I was there because Sienna had asked me to watch the first assessment, and Valerie had agreed on the condition that I stayed outside the clinical area. Valerie pressed 2 fingers beside Sienna's ankle, waited for her answer, then marked the response on a rehabilitation spreadsheet with a red pen. Her light brown hair was tied in a practical ponytail. A full-coverage navy training shirt and loose black track pants allowed her to demonstrate movement without turning the session into a performance. "Pain level?" she asked. 3 when you press there, 1 when I sit still, and when you pretend you can play tomorrow." "Emotionally, 11? Valerie smiled and reset the band beneath Sienna's heel. Sienna had selected Valerie through the league's player choice provision. An independent health trust, not my team, paid Valerie, and only Sienna could authorize her treatment records. I controlled the building and basketball operation. Valerie controlled her clinic, methods, and care. Valerie had left Apex Athletics after 7 years and signed a lease for her own rehabilitation clinic. The bank would release the final renovation funds only if she maintained 2 anchor clients through opening month. Sienna was the first, a local dance company was the second. Losing either contract would leave Valerie with a half-finished clinic, a 5-year lease and loan payments beginning in 30 days. Her former regional director, Elias Thomas, wanted her back before that clinic opened. 3 other therapists had asked Valerie about joining her practice, if she succeeded. Apex risked losing both staff and clients. Elias still held a broad non-compete clause and access to old internal emails. He could not cancel Valerie's new agreements himself, but he could seek an injunction, file an intellectual property complaint, and make the legal fight expensive enough to freeze her financing. My practical reason for being involved had nothing to do with romance. Sienna's safe return could decide our season, and league policy required my organization to preserve access for her selected provider. I had to protect facility records and team rights, but I could not speak for Valerie. Use her documents or choose her legal strategy. Valerie wrapped the band around Sienna's foot again. 10 seconds of controlled tension. Stop if the pain rises above 3. The digital timer on the wall began counting. Sienna held for 9 seconds before her toes trembled. "Release," Valerie said. Sienna obeyed. Valerie entered the result, adjusted the angle, and started again. No dramatic promise filled the room, just rubber tension. The quiet hum of the ventilation system and the scratch of red ink across paper. After the assessment, Valerie closed her worn leather folio and gave Sienna a written 48-hour plan. No running. No unsupported stares and no social media videos suggesting otherwise. The team physician would review new swelling on Friday. Only after his examination would Valerie design the next stage. "Can I shoot from a chair?" Sienna asked. "If Coach Nolan agrees and someone retrieves the ball." Sienna looked past her toward me. "I retrieved nothing before coffee number 2, I said. "Nolan likes me better. Nolan likes anyone who follows the playbook." "Then he definitely likes Valerie better." The treatment room door opened before Valerie could answer. Nolan Parker, my assistant coach and oldest friend, stepped inside with a courier envelope held carefully between 2 fingers. "This arrived at reception," he said. "It has Valerie's name and enough legal lettering to ruin breakfast." Valerie read the return address before she touched it. Her red pen stopped above the spreadsheet. "APEC," she said. Nolan handed the envelope directly to her. She opened it, scanned the first page, and placed it flat on the padded table. A cease-and-desist notice demanded that she stop treating Sienna within 24 hours. Apex claimed our elite training facility competed with its commercial gyms and alleged that Valerie's rehabilitation sequence used proprietary methods developed during her employment. Sienna sat upright. Can they do that? They can send a letter, Valerie said. Her thumb held the page steady while the ventilation lifted one corner. Whether a court enforces it is another question. She photographed every page, including the courier label, then called someone listed in her phone as Maya Chen. Valerie asked for an employment law consultation that afternoon and sent the notice through Maya's secure client portal. Only after the call ended did she look at me. The team may need its own lawyer, she said. This notice names your facility. May I give our league counsel a copy? Valerie considered the question, then wrote one sentence on the bottom of the final page. I authorize Julian Foster to provide this notice, and only this notice, to team or league counsel for assessment of the team's rights. She dated and signed it. You may share that document, she said. Nothing from my Apex files unless Maya and I approve it. Understood. I called Priya Shah, the league attorney assigned to medical access disputes. I told her what had arrived, what Valerie had authorized, and nothing more. Priya requested a copy of the notice, our facility classification, and the player choice section of the medical agreement. She did not promise an instant victory. She scheduled a joint call for 4 o'clock after Maya completed her consultation. Valerie packed the resistance bands into her medical bag. What happens to today's plan? Sienna asked. Today's assessment is complete, Valerie said. Maya will advise me about tomorrow. Your team physician can continue basic care if I have to pause. She did not pretend leaving would be painless. Pausing meant lost fees, a delayed clinic draw, and an interrupted treatment relationship. Continuing without advice could give Elias the violation he wanted. Both doors carried a cost. I moved my coffee away from the paperwork before the cup left a ring. The private conference room is available for your call. If you prefer to leave, Nolan can arrange a car. I'll use the room, she said, and I'll make my own way home. That answer set the boundary more clearly than any speech could have. At 4, Valerie and Maya joined a secure call from the conference room. Priya connected from the league office. Nolan sat with me because facility access affected basketball operations. Maya spoke first. Valerie is my client. I will handle the non-compete response in any court filing. Priya represents league and team interests. Julian, you may answer questions about the facility. But you do not represent Valerie. Agreed, I said. Maya explained that Apex would need to file a complaint and persuade a judge to grant temporary relief. Until then, the letter alone did not prohibit Valerie from working. Valerie chose to continue Sienna's treatment under 2 safeguards. Sessions would occur only during Sienna's authorized medical hours, and Valerie would use protocols she had documented before, joining Apex or developed independently afterward. Maya would preserve the relevant records. Priya would send Apex a separate notice that the team facility was not a commercial gym and that interference with player-selected care could violate the league agreement. Do you authorize the team to release clinic schedules showing that no public fitness memberships are sold here? Priya asked. Valerie glanced at Maya. Maya nodded. Yes, Valerie said. Only facility schedules. No patient names beyond Sienna's already disclosed selection. I wrote the limit beside my keyboard before anyone disconnected. Valerie summarized every next step herself. Maya would respond to the notice. Priya would protect league access, and I would preserve facility records without contacting Elias directly. At 7 each morning, Valerie placed her red pen beside the digital timer. I left black coffee on the outer counter, far from her clinical notes. She ignored it the first 2 days. On the 3rd, she replaced my paper cup with a metal travel mug bearing a strip of white tape. Owner, stop reheating this, the tape said. It has a lid, she explained. You walk through 3 doorways while reading messages. Probability was becoming destiny. Nolan read the label and nodded. Medical science has finally addressed his greatest risk. The mug became part of our morning rhythm. So did the anti-fatigue mat Valerie slid beneath my desk after seeing me rub my injured knee. The next day, a timer vibrated beside my laptop every 30 minutes. "Nolan programmed it," she said. He pointed at her. Under clinical supervision, their conspiracy pulled a laugh out of me before the scouting report reclaimed the room. During the second week, Sienna progressed from static holds to controlled weight transfer. Valerie used a pressure plate borrowed through the Player Health Trust. Each green bar on the monitor represented force passing through Sienna's foot. When the right side lagged, Valerie shortened the movement and changed the resistance angle rather than demanding more effort. "You don't win by forcing unstable tissue," she said. "You win by giving it a load it can adapt to." I watched Sienna's numbers even out over 6 repetitions. Valerie's competence did not announce itself. It appeared in smaller adjustments, accurate notes, and the absence of unnecessary pain. The quiet progress ended on Thursday when Maya received notice that Apex had filed in civil court. A judge declined to issue an emergency order without hearing from Valerie but scheduled a preliminary injunction hearing 3 weeks later. Apex also submitted a complaint to the Professional Licensing Board, claiming Valerie had removed confidential treatment templates. Maya called while Valerie was reviewing Sienna's gait video. Valerie set the tablet down and listened without interrupting. When the call ended, she pulled a chair to the table. "Elias wants 2 things," she said. "He wants the court to stop my current work, and he wants the licensing complaint to scare the bank." Her prediction proved accurate by lunch. The bank paused the final renovation draw pending clarification of the legal dispute. Contractors had installed the clinic flooring but not the treatment partitions. Valerie had enough cash to cover 1 month of rent, not enough to finish construction and open on schedule. 2 barriers locked the easy exits. Abandoning Sienna endangered Valerie's anchor client requirement. Fighting required legal fees while the frozen loan threatened her clinic. Elias's settlement would close her business and send her back to Apex for 18 months. I placed my travel mug on the table and kept both hands around it. "The team has emergency vendor funds," I said. "I will not offer them unless your lawyer confirms there is no conflict, and you decide you want to consider it." Valerie shook her head. "No bridge loan from a team connected to the dispute. Elias would call it evidence that I'm dependent on a competitor. Then we do not use it." She opened her leather folio. "I have a smaller option. The dance company can prepay 6 weeks if I move their injury prevention workshops to a temporary studio. It will not finish the clinic, but it covers rent and Maya's retainer. What do you need from us?" "Access to copies of the facility classification and Sienna's payment confirmation from the Hotel. Independent trust. Maya will request them. I do not need you to solve the bank." "Then I'll wait for the written request." That afternoon, Valerie booked a community studio and secured the prepayment without involving me. The clinic remained unfinished, but her lease and legal representation survived another month. After Valerie authorized Maya's written request, our finance director confirmed that the trust paid her, and facilities documented that the center sold no public memberships. I signed only my organization's declaration. The attorneys handled their respective filings. The third week brought a different attack. An industry blog published excerpts from Apex's complaint beneath. A headline accusing Valerie of stealing a rehabilitation system. The article included no response from her or the Player Trust within hours. 2 prospective clinic clients postponed consultations. Elias sent Valerie a settlement proposal through counsel. Apex would withdraw the case if she surrendered her lease, transferred her client inquiries, and agreed not to practice within 50 miles for 18 months. The offer expired in 48 hours. Valerie read it at the outer counter while the digital timer counted Sienna's balance drill. The red numbers reached 20 before she lowered the page. "He is asking me to erase the business before a judge reviews his evidence," she said. Sienna stepped off the balance pad. "Tell him no." "That decision belongs to Valerie and her lawyer," I said. Valerie looked at Maya's number on her phone. "I already know my answer. I want Maya to deliver it properly." She called. rejected the offer and instructed Maya to request a correction. From the blog with copies of the facility and payment records, Priya issued a separate statement confirming that Valerie had been selected lawfully and that the league was reviewing Apex's interference with player choice. Neither statement insulted Elias or predicted the court's ruling. The article remained online for 48 hours. Valerie kept working. But at 8 one evening, I found her beside the pressure plate, reading the same line twice. I stopped outside the yellow boundary. "May I make an observation unrelated to Sienna's care?" She rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Yes. You have been here 14 hours. The facility is closing. Nolan can lock the equipment. And your records are already backed up. The hearing packet belongs to Maya until morning. Would you like a car called, or would you rather drive?" Valerie looked toward her medical bag. The ventilation clicked into night mode, and the sudden quiet made the exhaustion in the room impossible to ignore. "Call the car," she said. "I'm too tired to drive safely." Reception arranged it. I handed Valerie the driver's information and waited until she confirmed the license plate. 10 minutes later, a message appeared. "Home. Travel mug is still terrible, but you used it correctly today." I set the mug beside the locked reception desk and went home before opening another report. The blog added Valerie's response the next morning and removed "stolen" from its headline. Both prospective clients rescheduled. By the 4th week, Sienna could perform controlled lateral steps. Valerie did not clear her for practice on enthusiasm alone. She scheduled a blinded functional test with the team physician and an independent sports medicine consultant chosen by the player trust. Nolan arranged the court, removed unnecessary staff and placed a chair at each. And so Sienna could stop without crossing the floor. I watched through the glass from the hallway. Sienna completed the first sequence cleanly. On the second, her right knee drifted inward during deceleration. Valerie raised one hand, and the drill stopped before Sienna planted again. "I can do it slower," Sienna said. "Today's goal was to find the limit," Valerie replied. "We found it without re-injury. That is progress." She shortened the next week's workload and added hip stability work. The independent consultant agreed. Sienna's shoulders dropped, but she signed the revised plan herself. The same afternoon, limited document exchange began in the court case. Apex produced the employment agreement, the supposed proprietary template, and internal emails about Valerie's departure. Maya reviewed the files first. She then asked Valerie whether 2 certification emails could be used in court. Valerie approved them after removing unrelated patient information. The emails showed that Apex's standard protocol predated Valerie, but they also showed something Elias had not mentioned. Valerie had developed her kinetic chain sequence during graduate research before joining Apex. She had provided Apex a limited internal teaching license, never an assignment of ownership. A second thread showed Elias refusing the annual certification stipend promised in her employment agreement while continuing to advertise her advanced credentials. The evidence did not magically erase the non-compete. It gave Maya a grounded argument. Apex was unlikely to prove ownership of Valerie's independent method. Its commercial gyms did not occupy the same market as player-selected rehabilitation, and its own performance under the employment agreement was disputed. Valerie found the decisive clue herself. Apex's submitted template carried a revision date 2 months after she resigned. "They rebuilt this from my public workshop handout," she said, comparing the footer to an archived copy on her clinic website. "Look at the exercise order. Their old internal version placed stabilization last. Mine always placed it before acceleration." The court ordered Apex to produce the native file history. It confirmed that a manager created the claimed proprietary template after Valerie left, using her public seminar material. No one called it fraud in a press release. Maya added the file history to the opposition brief and allowed the judge to decide what weight it deserved. That Friday, Nolan brought dinner into the video room while Valerie, Maya, and Priya prepared witness order. 4 cardboard containers released the smell of ginger. Rice and roasted vegetables across the table. "I was told competence requires calories," Nolan said. Valerie pointed at my travel mug. He is teachable, but only through labeling. I use labels, I objected. You once marked 3 scouting folders important? They were all important. Maya closed her laptop long enough to eat. The joke gave the room 6 quiet minutes before the hearing schedule returned to the screen. During the 5th week, Valerie agreed to mediation because a fair result could protect her opening date. Maya represented her. Priya attended only for league access. I waited outside because the settlement was Valerie's decision. I waited in the courthouse cafe with Nolan, turning my travel mug between my hands while an old refrigerator rattled behind the counter. 90 minutes later, Valerie and Maya emerged. Valerie carried the proposed terms in her leather folio. They offered to release the non-compete if I stopped treating professional athletes for a year and license my method back to Apex. What did you decide? I asked. No. The answer came without hesitation. She had calculated the cost before leaving the room. Professional athletes represented only part of her clinic plan, but surrendering them would validate Elias's claim that Apex owned the market. Licensing her own pre-employment work back to him would put the same trap into a new document. Maya placed a folder beneath her arm. We proceed to the injunction hearing next Tuesday. At the training facility, Sienna waited beside the pressure plate with a small paper bag. You missed my best test, she told Valerie. The data will still be best when I review it. Sienna handed her the bag. Inside was a new packet of red pens and a note signed by the entire roster. For the woman who makes us stop before we break. Valerie read it once, pressed her lips together, and placed the note inside her leather folio. Then she checked the test with the team physician, instead of letting the moment change her standards. Sienna had improved, but not enough for full contact. Valerie approved controlled practice with a 15-minute limit. Nolan revised the drill plan. I signed the facility schedule after all 3 medical professionals approved it. The order mattered. Care first, basketball second, ownership last. The preliminary injunction hearing began in the 6th week. Maya presented Valerie's declaration. Graduate research, limited teaching license, certification emails and file history. Apex argued that former specialists could not leave with methods refined on company time. Valerie testified for 40 minutes. She explained the difference between general fitness programming and individualized rehabilitation. She identified which parts of her sequence came from graduate work, which evolved through public research, and which patient-specific adjustments could never belong to a generic template. When Apex's attorney asked whether my team had funded her clinic, she answered directly, "Noted the Player Health Trust pays for Ms. Reed's care. My dance company client prepaid workshops. Julian Foster offered no loan, investment, or ownership interest." And I declined the possibility before any terms were discussed. The bank records and trust affidavit supported her answer. Sienna did not testify about medical details. With her consent, the trust administrator confirmed that continuity of care mattered, and that changing providers mid-rehabilitation carried practical cost. Priya addressed only the league's player choice provision. The judge denied the preliminary injunction without deciding the whole lawsuit. Apex had not shown sufficient likelihood of success or that immediate restraint served the public interest. Valerie could keep working while the case proceeded. Outside the courtroom, cameras waited near the steps. Valerie spoke before anyone else. Today's ruling allows my clinic to continue operating while the facts are reviewed, she said. I respect the remaining process. My focus is patient care, construction, and opening on schedule. She thanked Maya, the player trust, and the professionals who preserved the records. She did not credit me with saving her. I preferred it that way. The bank released the renovation draw after receiving the ruling and an updated letter from the player trust. Contractors returned to Valerie's clinic the next morning. Framing went up around 3 treatment rooms. Frosted glass arrived for the consultation office. Valerie chose every fixture and signed every change order herself. Relief took the form of sawdust on new flooring and a contractor asking where she wanted an outlet. The licensing board closed its preliminary review after receiving the research and file history. Apex's parent company placed Elias on administrative leave while outside counsel examined the template and public statements. No one promised an arrest or a ruined life. The documented processes moved at their own speed. At the beginning of the 7th week, Sienna completed the independent return-to-play test. The pressure bars rose evenly. Her deceleration stayed aligned. The team physician cleared her for limited minutes. And Valerie wrote a staged plan that Nolan could follow without improvising. 12 minutes in the first game, Valerie said. Nolan stared at the plan. She will negotiate for 18. Then you may tell her the medical team already negotiated down from 10. Sienna entered behind him. Betrayal. Compliance, Valerie corrected. The first playoff game vibrated through the arena concrete. Sienna checked in late in the first quarter, made one clean pass, missed a jumper and drew a charge before Nolan removed her at 4 minutes. At halftime, Valerie checked swelling and strength. Sienna returned for 2 short rotations and finished with 11 minutes. 2 assists and no setback. Our team won by 5 because the full roster defended, not because one injured player became a superhero. After the game, I found Valerie at the medical table updating the red pen spreadsheet. You could celebrate, I said. I am celebrating. Her swelling stayed below the limit. I set the travel mug beside her. The white tape had begun peeling at one corner. Your label is failing. You have used the same mug for 6 weeks. The intervention succeeded. The smile she gave me lasted only a second, but it followed me all the way to the locker room. As Sienna's minutes increased, Nolan stopped asking me to approve every substitution. When I reached for his tablet during the 4th game, he moved it 6 inches away. Your job is ownership, he said. Mine is coaching. Valerie created a contagious respect for boundaries. I left the tablet where he placed it. Near week's end, Maya negotiated a settlement. Valerie reviewed it for 2 days and requested 3 changes. Apex released the non-compete and ownership claims, corrected the article and reimbursed defined legal fees. Both sides dismissed the remaining claims without admitting liability. Valerie refused a confidentiality clause that would have prevented her from showing future employees how the dispute was resolved. Apex narrowed it to patient information and private financial data. Elias left the regional director role following the company's internal review. The settlement did not speculate about his future employment. Valerie signed only after Maya explained every provision. I learned the result from Priya after the dismissal entered the public docket. Valerie owed me no private report. The Player Health Trust's athlete committee offered Valerie a 1-year provider agreement. I had no vote over its award, fees, or termination. I filed a conflict disclosure and recused myself from any team decision involving her clinic. Valerie's 8-week engagement ended after the 2nd playoff round. The physician accepted her final report. The trust paid her invoice, and Sienna returned to routine team care with a maintenance plan. Our team lost the conference final by 3 points. The locker room was quiet, but no one blamed Sienna's ankle. She had finished the series healthy and within her limits. A championship would have been satisfying. A career protected from a reckless return mattered more. 2 days later, Valerie opened her clinic. Morning light spread across pale wood floors and 3 completed treatment rooms. The worn leather folio rested on the reception desk beside a glass jar of red pens. Her dance company clients filled one wall with photographs from their temporary workshops. Sienna's roster note hung in a simple frame near the pressure plate. Maya attended. Priya came on behalf of the Player Trust. Nolan carried a tray of coffee and announced that he had labeled every cup according to medical standards. Sienna arrived without a brace and climbed the front steps at a pace Valerie approved. I stayed near the back until Valerie finished thanking the contractors, clients and advisors who had kept the clinic moving. Then she crossed the room toward me, carrying a new strip of white tape. She removed the worn label from my travel mug and replaced it. Owner, leave work before midnight. An expanded treatment plan, she said. Does it require daily compliance? Nolan receives the monitoring reports. From across the room, Nolan raised his coffee. Independent oversight. Valerie laughed. and the sound loosened something that 8 weeks of hearings and playoff noise had kept tight in my chest. She glanced toward Maya and Priya, then back at me. Your disclosure is on file. The trust agreement is independent. Sienna's engagement is closed. All true. Then I would like to ask you something that has nothing to do with basketball, medicine, or contracts. The room remained busy around us. She had chosen a public place, her own clinic, and a moment when every professional boundary was visible. Ask. Dinner on Friday? I tightened my grip on the travel mug before it could slip. Yes. Good, 7 o'clock. I choose the restaurant because your idea of dinner is whatever arrives during a scouting call. That is efficient nutrition. That is noodles over a keyboard. She walked back to her guests before I could produce a defense. The choice was hers. The invitation was hers, and the answer changed none of the documents in the room. Our first date involved no legal strategy and ended before midnight. Valerie chose a riverside restaurant where we discussed books, bad arena music, and our first jobs. Over the next month came Sunday coffee, walks that never became meetings, and a community game where Nolan confiscated my phone while Sienna kept score creatively. Valerie never discussed a patient without authorization. I never asked Priya about the trust's business with her clinic. When our worlds intersected, the recusal stayed in place. The title bet happened at Valerie's clinic during a Saturday open house. Long after her professional dispute had closed, she was teaching a free mobility class for retired athletes and local dance students. At the end, Nolan challenged me to demonstrate a supported hip stretch. Valerie had adapted for former players with limited knee flexion. I lasted 38 seconds before my back heel lifted. The digital timer beeped. Sienna applauded far too loudly. Valerie reset the mat and took my place. She wore a high-neck training shirt and relaxed athletic pants, the same kind of practical clothes she used for every public workshop. Her hands aligned the support blocks. Her posture, not her body, showed exactly why everyone in the room trusted her. You will not reach a minute, I said. She looked up at me, one eyebrow raised. Was that a professional assessment? No, I have no authority here. It was reckless optimism. Then make it interesting. I crouched beside the timer, staying outside the edge of her mat. I bet you couldn't hold that stretch for a minute. The red numbers climbed, 40 seconds, 50. Valerie's breathing remained even while Nolan narrated my defeat like a championship broadcast. At 58 seconds, she turned her eyes toward me and smiled. What do I get if I win? 1 kiss, I said, only if you want it. The timer reached 60. Valerie released the stretch, stood and offered me her hand. I took it and let her set the distance between us. I won, she said. Decisively. Then I choose when to collect. She turned toward the class and finished answering questions. For 10 minutes. She demonstrated safer modifications, corrected Nolan's foot position, and reminded Sienna that healthy athletes did not earn permission to ignore warm-ups. When the last guest left, sunlight lay in long rectangles across the clinic floor. The digital timer rested beside the jar of red pens. My travel mug stood on the reception desk, its latest instructions still attached. Valerie locked the front door, crossed the quiet room, and stopped in front of me. Now, she said. I waited. She placed one hand against my shoulder, rose onto her toes, and kissed me. The kiss was brief, warm, and entirely separate from a job, a loan, a legal settlement, or a medical decision. When she stepped back, her smile carried the same confidence she had brought to the courtroom and every treatment table. Worth the full minute? I asked. Ask me after dinner. I lifted the travel mug. Before midnight? She tapped the white label with one red polished fingernail. That boundary remains in force. We turned off the clinic lights together. Behind us, the timer went dark. The red pens waited for Monday, and Valerie's name remained on the glass door of the business she had built for herself. The end. Closing thoughts. Core lesson. Real partnership protects another person's choices without taking control of their fight. Clear evidence in patient work can outlast intimidation. Green flag, Julian asks before sharing records. respects Valerie's independent counsel, and removes himself from decisions affecting her income. Valerie directs her care, legal strategy, business, and romantic choice. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this wholesome romance. Please like the video and subscribe for more stories. Would you have rejected Elias's settlement and taken the case to the hearing?